I still remember that day, as clear as if it happened yesterday. The air was thick, the sun low in the sky, and the whole village stood in silence. That was the first time we saw him, Kayin, the warrior who had been exiled. No one knew why he had been banished or why he came back. But the fear in our village was real. Even as a boy of 15, I could feel it. His name was only spoken in whispers, and I had heard the stories of how he had betrayed the tribe, how he had angered the spirits, but no one really knew the truth. But there she was, standing at the edge of the crowd, watching him, Rabeni, the healer. She had a calmness about her, a way of looking at things as if nothing could surprise her. The whole village admired her. She had saved lives, brought babies into the world, and tended to the wounds of warriors. Many men had tried to win her heart, but she had never shown interest. Yet, I noticed the way she looked at Kayin that day. It was different. Kayin was tall, broad-shouldered, with scars that told stories no one had the courage to ask about. He walked through the village like he didn't care that everyone was watching, like he had nothing left to prove. His eyes were dark, always scanning, always searching. But when they landed on Abeni, he paused, just for a second. It was like time stopped, and I could feel something was about to change. In our village, warriors were everything. Strength, power, the ability to protect, that's what mattered. But Abeni, she was different. Her hands healed. Her herbs and roots could cure things even the strongest men couldn't fight. She had a quiet strength, and I think that's what drew Kayin to her. Days passed, and rumors spread. Some said Kayin had returned for revenge. Others said he wanted to reclaim his honor. But I saw him, late at night, when he thought no one was watching. He would go to the edge of the village, where Abeni lived alone, tending to her small garden of healing plants. At first, he just stood there, watching from a distance. Then, one night, I saw him approach. I couldn't hear what they said, but I could see them talking. Kayin stood tall, but there was a softness in his posture I hadn't seen before. Abeni, she didn't step back. She didn't show fear. Instead, she offered him something, a small pouch, probably herbs or medicine. He took it, and for the first time, I saw him smile. It wasn't long before people started to notice. Kayin spent more and more time with Abeni, and the village didn't like it. They whispered that a healer like her shouldn't be with a man like him. Abeni didn't care, though. She saw something in him that no one else could. One day, Kayin was challenged. It was inevitable. Another warrior, Lambo, accused him of being a coward, of running away from the tribe when they needed him most. Lambo was younger, faster, and eager to prove himself. Kayin didn't say a word. He stood there, looking calm, while the crowd gathered. When the fight started, I was sure Kayin would lose. Lambo was quick, and his strikes were sharp. But Kayin, he was patient. He waited, studied, and then, with one powerful blow, knocked Lambo to the ground. The village gasped. No one expected Kayin to win, but he didn't celebrate. He just walked away, as if it didn't matter. That night, I saw Kayin at Abeni's again. This time, they weren't talking. They were sitting in silence, side by side, staring at the stars. There was something peaceful about it, but I knew it wouldn't last. The elders wouldn't allow it. The next day, Abeni was summoned by the council. They told her she couldn't see Kayin anymore, that he was a danger to the village. But Abeni stood her ground. You don't understand him, she said. He's not what you think. The elders didn't listen. They gave her an ultimatum: leave Kayin, or leave the village. I didn't know what she would do. She had always been loyal to the village, always cared for its people. But that night, I saw her packing her things. She was leaving. Kayin was waiting for her at the edge of the forest. I followed them, staying far enough behind that they wouldn't notice me. They walked in silence, deep into the woods, until they reached a clearing. It was there, in the moonlight, that Kayin finally told Abeni the truth. I didn't leave because I was afraid, he said, his voice low. I left because I had no choice. He explained how he had been forced into exile by the chief himself. The chief had feared Kayin's growing power, worried that the people would follow him instead. So, he spread lies, turning the village against him. Kayin had left to protect the village from itself, to avoid a war that would tear it apart. Abeni listened, her face calm but her eyes filled with understanding. You don't have to prove yourself to them, she said. You've already done more than enough. Kayin shook his head. It's not about proving myself. It's about making things right. They stayed in the forest for days, hidden from the village. Abeni continued to heal him, not just his body, but his spirit. She showed him that he didn't need to carry the weight of the past alone, that they could face it together. But the village didn't forget. When they returned, hand in hand, The elders were waiting. They demanded Kayin leave for good, but Ebony wouldn't let them take him. She stood in front of him, her voice strong. "If you send him away, you'll lose me too." The village was silent. No one wanted to lose Ebony. Her healing had saved too many lives, but they couldn't let Kayin stay either. The elders argued. The people whispered. But in the end, it was the chief who made the decision. "We will not force you to leave," he said, "but you must prove your loyalty. If you can protect this village from the dangers that lie beyond, you will have your place here." Kayin agreed without hesitation. For weeks, he patrolled the borders, fought off wild animals, and warned of approaching threats. The village watched, slowly realizing that the man they had feared was the one keeping them safe. In the end, it wasn't the strength of Kayin's sword that earned him the village's respect, but the quiet courage of Ebony's love. Together, they showed that healing and strength could coexist, that love could mend what fear had broken. And from that day on, Kayin was no longer the exiled warrior. He was one of us. And Ebony, well, she was always more than just a healer. She was the heart of our village, the one who brought us all together.